On this edition of Good Day DePaul, President Biden's age. It's a concern for many. How do people at DePaul feel?
An incredibly warm February in Chicago. Why it's so hot and why we should care.
And dogs, the search for a space in the city for man's best friend. I'm Lena Gebhardt.
And I'm Princess Siafa, and this is Good Day DePaul.
It's one of the big questions of the presidential election. How concerned are voters with President Biden's age? I talked to various people at DePaul to get their opinions.
President Joe Biden is currently the oldest sitting president in American history, followed by former President Donald Trump. Ahead of the November elections, many people are concerned about the age and abilities of our candidates. However, this isn't the first time in American history where this has been brought into question. Former President Ronald Reagan was also questioned about his age and mental abilities prior to him being elected.
I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purposes my opponent's youth and inexperience.
Nearly 40 years later, America is watching both of our likely presidential candidates face scrutiny over their age. At 81, President Biden has stuttered, misattributed information, and stumbled frequently on camera. In a Department of Justice report, Special Counsel Robert Hur, a Republican, described Biden as an elderly man with poor memory. That comment has been criticized and disputed by the president as unfair and political. Chris Bury, a DePaul journalism professor and former ABC News correspondent, explains the concern.
When you look at Biden and Trump, both of them are already making gaffes that may or may not be age-related. Biden stutters. The fact that he's old doesn't help that. He doesn't come across that well on television. Trump has been making a lot of mental mistakes too, confusing Nancy Pelosi and Nikki Haley. So they're both exhibiting behavior that may or may not be related to age, but they factor into perceptions that they're old and not at the top of their games.
A recent poll suggests that despite there only being 4 years of difference in age between Biden and Trump, 76% of respondents are concerned about Biden's mental fitness compared to 48% concerned about Trump's age. And that's troubling for Ben Osowski, a political science student at DePaul.
Yeah, I think it's important that, we focus on age and, don't let that be a distraction, because that's an important factor for this level of a job, regardless of ideology. You need someone that is fully up for the task. And it's, again, I'm not trying to blame someone like Joe Biden. It's just he's 81 or 80 or what, like he's old. Like that's just happens when you get older. So yeah, I think it's important. And some people may say the other way, but I just think, again, for a job like the president of the United States, we need to that needs to have the highest level of, scrutiny in terms of what the person trying to get the job, the qualifications for the job. It's like you need someone that's up for the task and that is mentally able to complete the task at hand.
Professor Nick Kasharubas teaches in the DePaul School of Public Service. He explains why many candidates wait until they're older to run for office.
There is a huge financial burden to run for election. You have to raise a crap load of money to get your name out there. And I think older people tend to have a little bit more money or have some money put away to actually invest in their campaign. They have usually networks of older people that have money to invest in their campaigns. And I think they also older people tend to be thinking about, they use a lot more federal programs like Medicare, Social Security, and so they're more in tune with what's not working, and they vote.
Regardless of who's running for office, DePaul student government senator Kirsten Reedford says she doesn't feel her voice is being heard.
Politicians in America are not representing our generation that well. I strongly believe this. And something that has been a huge factor for me is that I feel like even though I'm registered to vote, regardless of who I vote for isn't going to care about me. And whether that's just me or my generation or my values or anything.
Like all generations, young voters want to find a president who can make them feel like their voices are being heard. Voters who are old, young, and in between all need a president who is up for the task. But finding a candidate who can strike a balance between experience, mental fitness, and meeting the demands of every generation is hard to find. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Lena Gebhardt.
It was a stunning month of February in Chicago, unseasonably warm weather throughout the month. It was pleasant for many people at DePaul, but concerning to global warming experts. Good Day DePaul's Hannah Lopez has our report.
The month of February in Chicago normally consists of below freezing temperatures and plenty of snow. But this February, we saw spring-like temperatures, which is not what DePaul students anticipated.
Honestly, I was expecting it to be a little bit colder than it was actually. Because when I toured last year, it was like super windy, super snowy and cold.
Many have taken advantage of the nicer weather, like Leslie Fernandez, who walked about 10 minutes to get ice cream with her friends.
I'm enjoying it. I have an ice cream with me. It's kind of like really great weather for ice cream, or it's all right for ice cream. But in general, I would say that I was a little bit concerned because of how high the temperature has gotten, and that's not usually how Chicago weather is. It's normally a lot colder, especially during this time.
Dr. Mark Potosniak, a professor of environmental sciences at DePaul, believes the warm weather is a sign of climate change.
But this is certainly a unusually warm and unusually dry winter, so that we're not getting a lot of snow. We don't have a lot of ice on the lake, and it all adds up to more evidence that the climate is changing.
For Good Day DePaul, I'm Hannah Lopez.
If you live in the city and own a dog, you probably know how hard it is to find space for your furry friend to play outdoors. Some Lakeview neighbors, however, are working to create more space. Good Day DePaul's Daniel Duff has the story.
Chicago has become an increasingly popular destination for dog lovers. Many North Side neighborhoods like Lincoln Park claim to be some of the most pet-friendly in the country. But many local dog owners question if these neighborhoods deserve the title. Lance Sorensen is one of those local dog owners. His dog Oakley has had to adjust from a big backyard in Minnesota to a small apartment in Chicago. Sorensen believes that although there are many dogs living in the Lakeview area, there aren't enough designated spaces for them nearby.
For one, there's a lot of other dogs and dog owners. I feel like I can never go on a walk without seeing another dog. But then also there's like definitely some parks around the area. I wish there were some more parks that had more like grassy areas.
Poppy has only been living with Sierra Tyner and Andre Sanchez for 2 weeks. While the two are still learning the pros and cons of having a dog in the city, they have hope in their neighborhood.
Yeah, it's definitely been an adjustment to like the noise and the new smells and stuff. And it took her a few days to, find out where she is and stuff. But now she takes me around like she knows exactly where she is.
I think it's nice that she gets to see all these new people, and even like in the courtyard when we're taking her outside, like she'll meet the neighbors and they're like all her new little friends and stuff. She just gets so excited.
Wiggly Field is one of the most popular dog parks on Chicago's North Side. Many local dog owners, however, wish there were more options in the Lincoln Park and Lakeview neighborhoods.
For Oakley, it's a bit harder to chase other dogs around at, like, for example, Wiggly Field, because there's just not much to do there. It's like a skate park for dogs, but dogs don't skate, And it's like a bunch of, like, concrete everywhere. It's like dogs want to play in the grass.
Recently, Lakeview dog lovers have rallied around this idea, many supporting a petition for a new dog park. The Lakeview Dog Park would help reduce congestion and pet waste, provide a safe and enclosed area for dogs, and promote socialization for their owners. Some say that social aspect of being a dog owner in the city is one of its biggest perks.
It's also a new way for us to get out of the house too, and kind of learn more of the area, and it's kind of gotten us like more acclimated with just this little neighborhood in general, and we get to see more because of her too, which I think is cool.
I think a lot of people with backyards that live in the suburbs kind of just use that as an excuse to not walk their dog as much. But here, we have to take them out 3-4 times a day, and they're getting so much more enrichment that way. And honestly, now I'm getting more exercise than I used to.
I talked to a bunch of people I would never ever talk to if it weren't for us having dogs that were playing together, you know, and I think you start to get to know the people you live around more. Chicago needs to trust its dog owners more and trust its dogs more too.
The petition needs just over 1,000 more signatures before reaching its goal of 6,400. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Daniel Duff.
On February 25th in Evanston, Northwestern University security officials said there was an active threat on campus. They told students at the university to run, hide, fight, and take proper shelter. They also were told to lock or barricade their doors. University police investigated reports of shots fired near 70 Art Circle Drive on the Evanston campus. Later that night, police issued an all-clear and said no injured persons were located. Last April, 3 people were shot, one fatally, on a beach just outside the Northwestern campus.
DePaul Public Safety says a student was robbed near the Loop campus on February 26. It occurred at State and Adams at about 8:55 at night. Public Safety says the student was waiting for a bus when he was approached by 2 men. They demanded his money and phone and implied they had a knife. The student gave them both his money and phone. The men then left. The student was not injured.
Coming up, Illinois Secretary of State Alexi Giannoulias comes to DePaul.
And a tough loss for the DePaul men's basketball team. Those stories and more when we return.
There are a ton of social networking websites, but one stands apart for a very special reason. This one saves lives. It's MatchingDonors.com. MatchingDonors.com links living organ donors with people in need of kidney and other transplants. In the United States, 22 people die each day waiting for an organ transplant, most of them for kidneys. If you've ever considered becoming a living organ donor, or if you are someone in need of an organ transplant, visit MatchingDonors.com, home of the greatest gift of all, the gift of life. MatchingDonors.com.
One of the state's top elected officials came to DePaul recently. Illinois Secretary of State Alexi Giannoulias spoke with students and others at the university. Giannoulias helped pass a law that prevents book bans across the state. As more books are banned throughout the country, Giannoulias wants to guarantee that freedom of speech is protected in Illinois.
The most important thing we've done to date is fight for our librarians, fight for our libraries, fight for the freedom to learn and the freedom of speech.
The Giannoulias visit was sponsored by DePaul Center for Journalism Integrity and Excellence.
In sports, the DePaul men's basketball team came close but lost to Providence 77-76. The Blue Demons have now lost 15 straight games.
And the women's team lost to Connecticut 104-67, falling to 12-17 on the season.
In track and field, DePaul won 5 events at the Big East Indoor Track and Field Championship here in Chicago. Billy Martin won the women's weight throw. Alex Bernstein took first in the men's weight throw. Cash Allen won the women's shot put. Darius Brown took first in the 60-meter hurdles, and Brown teamed with Charles Lewis, Daniel Fasasi, and Jarrell Terry to win the men's 4x400 relay.
Things are looking up for the DePaul softball team. After losing their first 9 games, they won 3 out of 5 games at the Blue City Tournament in Memphis. They're now 3-11 on the season. And more good news for the team. Senior Brooke Johnson was named Big East Softball Player of this week. This after Johnson hit .588 in the recent series with 10 hits and 6 RBIs.
In tennis, the DePaul women's team has won 3 in a row, boosting its record to 8-5. They also received an honor. Junior Eleanor Nobbs was named Big East Women's Tennis Player of the Week. Nobbs won recently both her matches against Butler. Meanwhile, the DePaul men's team split their last 2 matches and are 5-5 on the season.
Next on Good Day DePaul, a major gift to the university.
That story when we return.
I think we should split up. Why?
I want to meet new people. People who need me. Meet new people? You're my left kidney. You only need one of me, man. And you have two. There are plenty of people out there who are dying because they don't have one.
Really?
You'll be giving the gift of life.
I could be a hero.
Yeah, it's all win-win up here, buddy. Why don't you go and save a life, pal? You're doing the right thing.
DePaul recently announced a $10 million gift to the university. It came from Mary Patricia Gannon, who died just over a year ago. The money will go to the School of Music. Gannon was a longtime supporter of the music school, with the school's Gannon Concert Hall named in her honor. And that's all for this week's edition of Good Day DePaul. You can keep up with us by visiting our Vimeo channel at Good Day DePaul or by going to goodday.depaul.edu.
And be sure to check us out on Facebook.
And if you have any news tips, message us through the Good Day DePaul social media channels.
Thanks for watching. I'm Lena Gebhardt.
And I'm Princess Siafa. Have a good day, DePaul.